Welcome back to another episode of A Tribe Called Dhillon podcast. Hope you had a great week. I am Angie Dhillon.
And I'm Rose Dhillon.
And I'm Alvin Dhillon. And this is Miko Dhillon as well.
Yeah, Miko is making a cameo appearance backed by popular demand. How you doing, Meeks? High five? High five. No, don't force him. I want him to do it. He doesn't want to high five me today. That's okay. Speaking of high fives, did you guys have a good week this week? Did you want to high five yourself?
Yeah, before you get into high five, I wanted to ask all our viewers, if you are on Spotify, can I please have you head over to YouTube and subscribe? We have a goal to reach 500 subscribers. And if you're on YouTube and you're watching this, there's a little button right there and it'll say subscribe, but please go ahead and hit that subscribe. If I could please ask that favor. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Do you want to high five yourself with anything this week? Any good accomplishments?
Ooh. Well, yes, this is an interesting one. I now officially have knee pain because I walked and danced too much all week, that I officially was like, oh no, I've overdone it. You know how I overdo?
Yeah.
Overdo. So I felt like, well, it's kind of an accomplishment. I looked at all my records every day and I was like, it's impressive.
So you high-fived yourself.
Yep. I was like, hang in there, knees. We're going to get there.
Are you still taking collagen tablets?
I'm taking everything and I'm like, this is not bringing me down.
No, it ain't going to slow you down.
Nope.
Al, you?
Yeah. Make sure when you go to buy your cane, you walk with your head up high.
Thanks.
Do you have any high five moments where you wanted to high five yourself?
I did a few things that I fixed up around the house, ongoing renos that I did, completed a task. I think there was a downspout to one of the gutters that I literally would look at it every day and I'm like, oh, this needs to be put up. And I just walk away from it and completely forget about it. Finally, the day I opened up the door because it was nice and sunny, I was like, this is going up today. Got it done by myself, holding the gutter with one hand, screw it like on my neck, put it in my mouth, put it in. I got it done.
Wow, that's a true high five moment.
And then I waited for the rain and it hasn't rained yet.
Of course it hasn't.
Of course.
Al, tell that story about the AI that you were telling me earlier.
Oh yeah, Dad's always on top of his A game. He secretly knows what's going on, but plays dumb. So we were talking about how the new Drake and the Weeknd song that came out and people were going crazy for. It was getting a lot of downloads, and I actually heard it. It was actually really good too. It was a good song. And then we all find out after that it was written by AI. It was all AI, completely AI generated. Wow. So Drake and their whole record company is like going after trying to implement new rules and laws now about people creating music from AI and whatnot, because it's got like more than 1 million streams. And then as we were talking about it, Dad's like, oh yeah, I heard that song. It was pretty good. Yeah. I heard AI's taken over. It just like nonchalantly just walked off like, oh yeah, I heard the Drake song. It was good.
And this is our dad who's almost close to 70, right?
Yeah. So our immigrant father who listens to Drake in the Weeknd.
And then he shared his feedback with UL.
Yeah, he said it was good. He liked it. Even though usually when he hears Drake singing, he says, oh, he's all off cue. He's all off tone. But he doesn't mind it though. But he doesn't get his singing, that it's not like acapella meant to be that this is Drake. He's a lyricist and he's a creative genius, and when he sings, you just take it.
Right. Yeah. Okay, good stuff. I had a huge high five moment for myself. I actually hosted and threw a successful employee spring party for 500 of my colleagues. We had 8 weeks to put this party together just because the venues that we were actually looking for, everything, I guess, everything's back full swing now. Like weddings are back, conferences, conventions, everything. The whole, it's like pandemic, what? COVID, what? So it was really difficult to find a location or in a venue that would be able to host 500 employees. But we pulled off a really creative party. It's so different from our previous format of like where you sit down buffet dinner style with lots of activations. We had the 360 photo booth. Have you seen that? It's super cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Regular photo booth. The DJ was awesome. I had break dancers come on. So for me, it was such a proud moment that when my colleagues were there and they were having such a great time, and the next day into the office, they pinged me through Teams, emailed me, high-fived me. I was like, I'm going to high-five myself for throwing a pretty badass party. So I was really excited.
Good job. Do you want a real high five?
Yeah. I love when you get something accomplished and it goes off well and successfully without a hitch. Love those kind of moments.
Far and few. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into today's topic. It's a little bit of a heavy subject, and I hope we don't get too heavy, but it's something that I feel it needs to be spoken about. And the three of us are so close. And it's also one of the main reasons why we decided to start a podcast together, because we know of people, we've heard of people that are just so disconnected from their siblings, a sibling or their siblings, where they have no relationship with their siblings. And for the three of us, that's a foreign concept. We're like, what do you mean you don't talk to your siblings? Like, we blow each other's WhatsApp chat daily, multiple times a day. We video call each other. We're all up in each other's business.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I put chats on mute because of the amount of message you guys send back and forth.
Yeah.
It's like full on conversations, like back and forth using voice notes.
Yeah.
And most times I open it and close and don't listen to all of that.
Yeah,
we're
aware
your
of
own
that.
banter. It's your own banter back and forth.
Yeah, we're aware of that. And actually on April 10th, it was International Siblings Day as well. So I feel in honor of International Siblings Day, this is a subject that we need to talk about as a team.
Do you know what I thought about? I think Netflix should hire us and we can go, the show we call Estranged Siblings, and we'll go reunite siblings together.
I would love that.
I would love to bring siblings together. Like, that's your built-in best friend. Like, that's
your blood.
Yeah.
It's like all your favorite memories when you really think about your happiest times is your childhood. And they're all with your siblings. So yes.
Yeah. And some people, are only childs and they don't have siblings. Their best friends are their cousins. But even that, if you're disconnected from a family member, a sibling, oh God, we want to reunite people.
Yes.
We want you to have the dialogue towards reconciliation, where you can, work things out. Okay. So I'm going to go to Al for this question here. Why do you think siblings just stop talking to one another?
That's a good question. So far, you haven't asked any bad questions.
Okay.
There's a variety of reasons, I think. I think a lot of it comes down to, I guess, something might have happened at a certain point in time in their lives and their egos came in, and one decided to hold a grudge or the other one held a grudge, and one decided not to speak to them. And then time, unfortunately, moves quite fast. We think it goes slow, but time goes by really quickly. And next thing you know, it's been 1 year, 3 years, 7 years, 10 years, and you haven't spoken to your own sibling. And it could have been over something dumb, because now that you've been 5-10 years later, you would have looked back and said, wow, we stopped talking over that. Like, because like they say, as you get older, you get wiser. So I think a lot of people just let time go by. And they let things fester. They don't go and talk about it. And then you find yourself in a situation where you've been estranged from your siblings. There's other reasons too. I think there could be childhood traumas. If you're a stepbrother, stepchild, you didn't know what they were going through as they're growing up. They didn't have a bond. But I think when you're siblings, I think you should make it a point to don't let anything get in the way of that, whether it's spouses, other family members coming in, friends trying to separate and divide. You need to always have each other's back, because really when things hit the fan, that's when you really know who has your back. And generally what I've seen is usually it's your family and your siblings.
Your immediate family.
Yeah,
right?
siblings.
Yeah, I agree. Rose, what about you? Same question to you. Why do you feel siblings stop talking to one another?
Yeah, I think I'm going to piggyback on Al. I think if sometimes when parents play favoritism with children, that does make a big impact on kids growing up. Well, she got everything, or she got the school and I didn't get it. So that ends up becoming kind of a barrier between the siblings, which is unfortunate because it's not their fault. It's sometimes the parents. Definitely your ego plays a role, right? If your sibling's doing better than you, then you feel the need to be competitive and you want to, not realizing you can learn from your sibling and grow together and help each other. I mean, you're older than me. I always come to you for so many more of my relationship advices. You ask me stuff on technology, like we help one another in the things that we're not good at. So I think that definitely is probably a lot of the problems is definitely your ability to just not say, I'm sorry. A lot of people don't use that word enough. I'm sorry. Like, it's okay. Like, how can we repair this? And I think when you get older, it's when people start to realize the value of your siblings. And sometimes, like Elsa, that cut so deep and so much time has gone by, you don't even know how to pick it back up.
Yeah. I agree. I'm piggybanking off of what Al said. This is a great question. I wrote it and now I'm thinking about, how am I going to answer this question? Okay. Why do I feel siblings stop talking to one another? I think there's many factors. Like you said, it could be, like Al said, childhood trauma. Rose, you're talking about if there's a division, parents start creating that division. It could be coming from broken families. It could be money later on in life, money inheritance. If a parent dies, you're not in the will, a whole combination of things, right? Whole slew of things. But I think first and foremost, if you're fortunate enough to have siblings, that path towards reconciliation, if you're not speaking to a sibling, pick up the phone, and it's 2 words. It's called, I'm sorry. And you can just apologize and say, I don't even know what I'm apologizing for, but I'm sorry. And right away, that'll probably start opening up the dialogue, opening up the room for a dialogue with your siblings. For me, when I think about this, why do you stop talking to your sibling? Sometimes there's really no rhyme or reason for that. And I'm going to, use my father as an example. Sorry, Dad, but we have to be authentic on this podcast, and I'm going there. As we know, Mom's side of the family is very tight, very close. We are so close to our cousins. Mom has a wonderful relationship with all of her siblings, and I think it also stems back to our Nanaji, which is my mom's dad. The values that he engraved in his children, when he was alive, he always said to everyone, I hope you all get along when I'm gone. These are your brothers and your sisters. Please protect them and keep the family unit as one and tight knit. And you know what? We have maintained and actually walked in honor with what our Nanaji left behind. I love my Babaji, which is my dad's dad, and I love my Dadi, but I feel that they didn't instill those exact same values in my dad's side of the family. I almost feel that they didn't even have this conversation with their kids, because the relationship that my dad has with his siblings, it is so disconnected and dysfunctional. And I saw and witnessed a lot of this growing up. And I promised myself that I would never, ever, as the eldest in the family, ever have relationships like that with my brother and my sister. It was so important for me to act as a parent, maternal figure for my brother and my sister, for them to lean on me for things. So I looked at you guys as like my baby, and I had your guys' back. In some ways, I was probably too smothering, but I just
are sometimes. I
can't help who I am, but I see and I saw over the years Dad struggle with the relationship with his siblings, especially with his brothers. I think they all had ego, as a clash of egos. Mm-hmm. And I remember a lot of times even like just getting involved and I guess mediating between the 3 siblings. And they were so much older than me, of course. And here I am getting the brothers together and dropping them off to a pub or whatever it was and saying, y'all work it out. I'm going to come pick you up in 2 hours. And that would only last for a few years. And then they'd be back at again. And it just made me really sad. And it makes me really sad for my dad that like he's kind of missed out. And I feel he's longing for that connection that he never really got. So for me, I really don't know why siblings stop talking to one another.
To add to that, like I think people think, well, you'll have your own family. Like I have my own wife and my own kids. It doesn't fill the void, because you're right. It's not just with Dad, but I've seen it with other older men or women who don't have relationships with their siblings, and they have great relationships that you can see there's something missing. And like you said, I'm glad you said that with Dad. I see that missing in him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes I feel, maybe I'm stepping over my boundary here, but I feel like I want to say this. Mom's family, all of our cousins and the brothers, sisters, they have such an amazing relationship. I almost feel sometimes maybe Dad doesn't want to go to family parties for that reason, because it's a reminder of what he doesn't have. And I don't think a lot of times, sometimes Mom doesn't put herself into Dad's situation with like, why do you not want to come? And I always tease Dad. I always say, Dad, you got married. This is part of the husband duties. You just got to go. You took an oath with Mom. But when I took a step back a couple of times, I was like, why does Dad maybe not want to go? And why do you want to go somewhere where you're kind of missing that in your own life? It's that constant reminder.
Because it's not your family at the end of the day. You're still, as much as you want to integrate with them, it's still your wife's family, right?
And you're an outsider still.
He's an outsider. And you're right. I think that's what I didn't realize with Dad was what he was longing that. That was the same thing with my ex-partner was. I think I realized he was longing for his own family, and this wasn't enough.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so if we can recommend a path towards reconciliation for people that are disconnected from siblings or even just family members, like what is your advice, Rose?
So I'm Switzerland as being the middle child. I think I'm probably not going to give you guys the best answer. I think you two will have better answers to give because you're oldest and youngest. My thing is always like, my ego doesn't matter. The love I have for the two of you, far outweighs all the other fluff and nonsense, because I know at the end of the day that if I have to go to the hospital, some emergency happens, I know I have you two to count on and carry me through my dark times. So that outweighs any silly conversations that we have or any silly debates or disagreements, because at the end of the day, I know that I can count on you guys if I need money or if I am in a stressful situation or if I need your help.
Yeah. I'm going to just say something between all of us here. I don't think we've really had a full-blown fight, and we never allow it to get into a full-blown fight. Have you noticed? Like, I think you and me had it, Tiff, probably like an hour before we shot this episode. She's doing my head in, and then I had to just pivot. Whoosha. I'm like, it's okay. You got to take sometimes what siblings say with a grain of salt. Don't take it so personally and just move on. And that's where you have to look at it and say, okay, look, it is what it is. I'm just going to say I'm sorry. You have
at least I apologize. I owned it because I was wrong.
You've messaged me so many times and say, I'm sorry, Ange, I was in a funk, or I'll message you 2 hours later back if I've hurt your feelings, and say I'm sorry. And Al is the same way. All three of us referee one another's fights, and we never let it get any bigger. And I think I really want to bring that value system and that behavior element back into families, because I think so many people, when the going gets tough, they just get going. And it's so hard because, once you close that door to reopen the dialogue for communication, anxiety kicks in. You don't know what to say. You don't want to say anything. And it just becomes awkward. And that's what happened over the years with my dad and his siblings. Like, I just think they all got stuck in their ways. And it's sad because before my Chacha, which is my dad's youngest brother, before he passed away, I knew that he was disconnected with the family from my dad. And it really broke my heart because we saw him a week before he passed away. And he said to me, true conversation, he said to me, I want to text your dad. And I said, Chacha, like, go ahead, text dad. And he goes, well, what if he doesn't respond? And I didn't understand the context of where my uncle was saying, like, I'm like, well, what do you want to text him? Like, just to come over? He goes, yeah, I want to hang out with him or something. I go, okay, well, why don't you just tell my dad, just say, yo, bro, I love you. And like, we should get together, because it had been, I think, a couple months they hadn't seen one another. And the trepidation and anxiety that I saw with my uncle just sitting down, he was like a little kid in a school. My cousin Rob was there. I had another cousin there, and you could just see the anxiety because he didn't know how the information was going to be perceived on my dad's end. Like, you could be you're the messenger, right? But I mean, no, you are the sender of the message, but however the messenger receives it, that's a different ballgame. And he texted my dad, and lo and behold, like literally 3 minutes later, my dad sent him a text back and responded. And you could see that he just wanted validation from his older brother. And
to add to Angie's story, I'm so glad that you were there, that you convinced him, because I think he said, I love you to dad,
he
right?
did.
Dad screenshot that text and has saved it. And I know dad goes over that text all the time. At least it gives him some peace of mind that before my brother passed away, I know how he felt about me.
Yeah. And it was just, maybe I was planted there in that moment for that message to be delivered to dad. And I said to my uncle at the time, I said, Chacha, what do you have to lose? Just say what's on your mind and in your heart, and let it go to the universe, and just trust the process. However my dad chooses to receive that information is on my dad, but you have done your job as a brother, and you've just sent without any ego. And so, you know what? Honestly, I think it was literally a couple days later, my dad got together with his brother. They had dinner, and 4 days later, my Chacha passed away. And I was not hoping not to get choked up, but I want to share the power that comes in relationships, and that you could tell right till the very end. My uncle, my dad's brother, wanted that relationship, and my dad wanted that, but they just couldn't figure it out in their lifetime. And it was so unfortunate that by the time the I love you was sent, it was just too late to even have a relationship. So for our listeners and for our watchers and for our viewers, please don't ever let it get to that where it's too late and the person's not there anymore to form that bond and to reunite. Yeah. And Al, if you don't want to talk about it, Al, I understand, because it was very difficult for you as well, but that's what I saw in our family. What did you see that made you want to make sure you had a great relationship with your siblings? Yeah,
that pretty much summed it up. Yeah. It was tough growing up to see like dad, because his family so dysfunctional. And now that you put it, I do see that's what dad probably sees. And when he goes and sees his wife's brothers, they all have each other's backs. Like they argue and fight, and then they all like make up, and it's like, and that's normal. Like that's what I see as normal. You should be able to fight and argue. Like
it's healthy.
Yeah, it's healthy. Get it out of your system, and then you say after, okay, I was wrong or you're wrong, and you apologize and move on. That's what life's all about. You don't sit there and hold grudges. But unfortunately, with their side of the family, it was like a 180 seeing that. So I think, Dad would see that, and then Dad would have felt left out because he didn't have the memories that they had growing up. Like Dad's memories of when they were a child aren't very good. Like he was usually always in trouble or getting hit for, you want to go out to the store, you want to watch a movie, you get in trouble, and they always have to do work. And it was just like what happens in, I guess, back generation, the older generation, when you have like 10, 12 kids, you're just another laborer basically to them. Yeah. And they didn't instill very good values, unfortunately, our grandparents, which I grew up with too. But they didn't really set them up for success, or their family up for success to stay close. Everybody was like divide and conquer. Mm-hmm. So I can see like how Dad would see that his brothers, and it's almost like it hurts because they'd be like, oh, look how tight they are. Yeah. They have this bond. They have all these memories. I don't have that with my siblings.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think when I saw so much of that, like they say that we emulate what we see as growing up as children. And I just knew at such a young age that I didn't want to emulate the type of relationship my dad had with his siblings. I was like, no, I don't want that, because I saw pain. I saw a lot of pain in my dad. I still see a lot of pain till this day. And I just was like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to break that generational junk that doesn't serve a purpose. And I'm going to be the best big sister that I can. And that's what I set out to do.
And you are a great big sister. So thank you.
Thank you. You're very welcome. I actually did a little bit of research here. You know, I like to do my research and fact check things. And there's not a lot of information, because we've heard it collectively through friends and families that, you know, this person doesn't talk to their sibling, or there's not very many, sibling relationships like the one that we have. And so I wanted to see if is there any information about this online? There has to be. So this is going back to a guy named Carl Pilmer from The Conversation. So in 2019, he conducted a national survey, and this is in America, and he asked this question. So the survey involved 1,340 Americans aged from age 18 and older, and whose demographic closely mirrored the United States population. Okay. So this is the question he asked people. He said, do you have any family members, example, parents, grandparents, siblings, children, uncles, aunts, uncle, cousins, or relatives from whom you are currently estranged, meaning that you have absolutely no contact with the family member at the present time? What do you think was the percentage of people being disconnected from their sibling, like immediate sibling? I'm going to hide this so you can't see.
No, I mean, living in America and seeing the disconnect, I'm probably the wrong person to ask the question, because I think it's pretty high. I'm sure it's like 30% or 40%, because I've seen it a lot. Al, what is your number?
I'm going to say 42%.
And
I like that number. I thought the stat was going to come in at 5 or 10%, but 30% don't have a relationship.
Jeez, I was only joking. I didn't really think it was that serious.
And 27% reported a current estrangement or had a rift with an immediate family member. So mom, dad, or, someone in your family. And this one was really, really alarming to me. 24% were estranged from their parent.
Jeez.
What the heck is going on?
Wow.
Yeah, really. That was really, really sad. Okay. So I think let's get to our final question here because this is heavy. I can feel it. Yeah. But to Al, I'm going to go to you, Al. If you could go back into time and come back as an only child to mom and dad, would you opt for this?
No.
Why?
I would not, because I think you need to have that sibling growing up, that sibling love that you get, because I think it's more fulfilling in your life. You can have all your friends and your cousins, but if you don't live with them and you don't live in the same household and see them every day, you're not going to have that same relationship with them. So I think growing up to be an only child, I think it would be pretty lonely. And the only children I've seen generally are pretty selfish, because they're not taught to share. They don't need to learn how to share. And then whatever they want, they get, because, okay, this one child is not that financially draining. We can provide them whatever they want. And I think I also find them generally a little more socially awkward too, because they're not used to that of having, let's be social, let's hang out, or let's have a sleepover, let's do this. They're more like, okay, I've hung out, it's time for me to go home now and go do my own thing. So I think growing up with siblings is probably like one of the best things. But keep in mind, growing up with siblings as close as we are, because I do know people that have grown up with siblings and they were kind of close, but as they got older, they allowed other people into their lives and other circumstances to take over, and they slowly started becoming distant and they went off in their own lives, but they still have a sibling, but they barely talk to them. And I just still find that a strange concept to understand.
Yeah. And we're aware right now there's a lot of unexplained fertility issues happening as well, right? So unfortunately, sometimes people want to have a bigger family, but they unfortunately can't for whatever reason. But I think, like you said, going back to the only child, I think at the end of the day, parents provide those values and teach them those behaviors and morals to be kind and be good human beings. And we're not going to see that kind of selfish behavior, right? But I mean, you know, for yourself, you're the only boy, like you've got two sisters, but you were very close to our cousins who are like male. So you in essence, you guys are like brothers.
Yeah. And like my best friend, he's like my brother because we've been since kindergarten. We've been pretty much every same class together. Did so much together, all our trips together. So he's like my family. I don't even look at it as like my best friend. I look at my family. But if I didn't have him and a couple other my own cousins in my life, like I don't know what that would be like, because then I would have like no brotherly figure or no
male interaction.
Yeah, male interaction. I think it would be strange.
Yeah, Rose, what about you? You want to come back as an only child to mom and dad?
As a middle child being born on Christmas Day, it sounds like it'd be riveting to have all of their attention to me. Absolutely.
Say that again. Say that because you just did two whammies right now.
Oh, I said being a middle child and born on Christmas Day. And secondly, because your father was hoping the second child would be a boy and turned out to be a girl. So he made the second one into a boy. Yeah. No, all jokes aside, I definitely would not come back. Wouldn't want to come back as an only child. I think what I've learned from you guys, just those small things that people take for granted. I'm not very rigid, and I think it's because growing up, we had to share bathrooms. We had to share beds. It's your turn to give up the room when guests come over.
Yeah.
Dude, that was my thing. You guys all got to sleep in your own merry beds. I was the one that had to give up my room,
it was me for the longest time.
My bed, and sleep on the goddamn ground.
Me until I got older, and then it became you. But I had to pay the way. And
that's because my room was attached to mom guys' room, and I was going. That room was like literally like a prison cell. It was like 6 feet by 8 feet.
I know. What were the things?
All you can fit is one bed. I don't even look at it as a bedroom now. When people come up, like, this is an office.
I don't know what they were.
I don't know what
it's an office with somehow got a closet in it.
Yeah, they want to keep a close eye on you at all times.
Totally.
Okay,
but yeah, no, it's just that, you know, those little skills that you learn in your formative years of sharing, of caring. You know, when you were sick, I would be there to take care of you. When Al was sick, we would take care of. Those are little things that you learn at such a young age. And I think it's done me a good service as an adult because I'm very much a caring person and more compassionate. And I think it's because I have siblings.
Yeah. And the answer to me, oh, hell no, I would not want to come back as an only child because I have a hoot with you guys. I love to boss you guys around sometimes, share my wisdom, but we have an amazing relationship. You two are truly my best friend, and all the difficulties, trials, and tribulations that I've gone through life, these two are my ride or die homies. And that is why we launched a podcast together, because there's just so much love that we genuinely want to share to the world. And we want people to know, yeah, we do get along. And sometimes we want to, like pinch each other or do something, but it is so short-lived, our arguments, and we just bounce back. And that is what we want people to know. The beauty of relationships, the beauty of life. Don't take anything so seriously or so personally. And if you can at least follow those two rules, I can tell you right now, everything else is going to start becoming a little bit more blissful in your life. With that said, I'm going to end today's episode because it is heavy. We hope we were able to share some information in there that, if you are disconnected from a sibling, or if you know someone that's disconnected from a sibling, tell them to come on over and have a listen to our podcast. And we hope we can elevate, motivate, and inspire them to talk about, or at least encourage them on the path towards reconciliation. And I think Miko agrees, because that's the only time in the last 2 hours he's actually barked. So coming from Miko, he encourages the path of reconciliation. So friends, until next week, we want to wish everyone a great week. We are a tribe called Dhillon Podcast. Please take care of yourself. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.